Hello everyone, I am Madhubanti Jash. Today I am going to present a very crucial factor of using Azure to all of you, mastering the cost management in Azure. In this platform Warsaw IT Days 2025, I will show you, discuss with you about several strategies tooling support for optimizing and controlling your cloud expenses. I am Madhubanti Jash, a DevOps engineer who transitioned from being Java tech lead. Let us start. With faster growth, larger client base, any organization feels more responsibility towards their client base. They want to make their clients' life much easier and comfortable and business profitable. Azure is no exception here. As per the article published in Guardian in October 2024, Azure is the fastest growing division for Microsoft, provided its strategic focus on AI. Azure currently serves 39,000 clients, which are enterprise users, and it shows 80% growth from the last year. Customers are actually much more because there are employees and users. So, with this vast responsibility, Azure feels they should come up with approaches support for their customers so customers feel much more confident in their Azure journey wherever they are today and make sustainable growth in their business area. So while we are discussing that Azure wants to benefit its customers, because why would any customer choose Azure if they are not giving substantial benefit to their client base? Because there are already several competitors in market. What is something Azure provides to their customers, which tells their customers, hey, you can use Azure to gain substantial advantages in running your business while using Azure infrastructure? There are many aspects to that, and one of the most crucial aspect to that is Azure cost management. Effective cost management in Azure ensures that when client weighs both benefit and liabilities in terms of using Azure, they feel that they are gaining much more benefits than liabilities. Effective cost management in Azure ensure prevention of unexpected expenses due to over-provisioned resources, underutilized resources, or non-performant resources. You can optimize resource utilization based on recommendation. You can set up budgeting based on your current spending pattern. You can set up alerts based on spending threshold or resource utilization. You can enhance governance or accountability using tagging, monitoring, or Azure policy. Effective cost management can save your cost up to 72%. Let us see how. First, you need to understand Azure pricing models. Pay as you go is the most widely known pricing model in Azure. Here you are charged for whatever you use. Whichever is Azure services, how much you use, you are charged for that. But suppose you already are aware of your workloads. You know that which kind of VM series you need, what should be its configuration. You can opt for then reserved instances, which lets you commit for 1 to 3 years to Azure service like VMs. And you can choose which kind of VMs you need and work on that based on your predictable workload. And even you can change the VM configuration based on your need, but you will be charged much less than if you would have opted pay as you go. 72% less it can be. Also, Azure has vast infrastructure and several times it has spare virtual machines available. You can opt for those for your interrupt tolerant workloads, but ensure that you are not using it for critical workloads because that can cause disruption when Azure evicts them for some ongoing resource demand for VMs. But if you opt for spot virtual machines, for example, in dev and test test environment, you can reduce cost up to 90%. You can also opt for Azure Hybrid Benefit, where you can reuse licenses for your Microsoft Windows on-premises servers or SQL servers when you want to opt those same things in Azure, but those licenses must be under active software assurance period. You can also opt for Azure cost savings. Suppose you know that you want to spend 1000 USD dollar equivalent computing resources per month. You can then opt for Azure cost savings. Any computing resources like app services or VMs or any other computing resources will come under that umbrella, and you can save up to 65% cost. Also, when you create new Azure account, you get 200 USD dollar equivalent credit from Azure to use their services for 1 month. Also, you need to understand how you are charged while you are using Azure services. While you are using Azure services like computing resources, you are charged for vCPU for hours, for VMs, for example, for storage for egress data, like the data transmitted from Azure to outside, or your storage tier, or for networking, you are charged for public IPs or VPN gateway or express route. You are mainly charged monthly, but you can also opt for quarterly annual billing if you have enterprise agreements. Now you know pricing models, you know how you are charged based on which meters. Now you should decide on the optimization strategies for effectively manage the cost in Azure environment. Make sure you follow shift left approach, which enables you to early detect the bugs, non-performant, underutilized resources in dev and test environment before deploying them actually in the production. You can right size resources based on recommendation. You can choose also right pricing model for your infrastructure like pay as you go or reserved instances or Azure Hybrid Benefit or Azure Savings Plan. You should opt for auto scaling whenever applicable, because at not so peak time, you should not use so many VMs which would be underutilized. You should opt for spot instances whenever your workload can tolerate interruptions. You should choose right access tier for your storage. You should monitor your Azure environment in automated manner by opting for its automated monitoring and alerting provisions. You can set up alerts based on the spending threshold or resource utilization. You should identify and eliminate idle resources. While you are thinking of cost management, you need to have very strong governance and budgeting in place. Azure natively and with help of open source or third-party tools can help you enable right kind of budgeting. Based on studying historical data, it can improve your forecasting and can let you set relevant budgeting, spending threshold, and you can set up alerts as per that. You can set alerts as per resource utilization. Ensure that you have role-based access control in place for provisioning infrastructure in your Azure environment. You use Azure policy monitoring or tagging to enforce compliance cost limits. You should regularly review your governance and budgeting report to ensure your reports are relevant and as per current spending strategies. Azure tagging and monitoring, how they help in your cost management. Imagine you have provisioned some resources with tagging environment production owner team A. It clearly tells who is the owner of this resource, who are responsible. It provisions accountability, clear visibility. Monitoring with help of Azure native tools, which we will see in later slides, or outside open source tools, you can ensure that you are monitoring performance metrics, usage metrics, user behavior in right manner. There can be challenges in setting up these tagging and monitoring essentials, but believe me, once you set up and once you adhere to it, your life becomes much easier. Azure lets you create reporting with detailed insights based on your incurred costs. You can generate customized reports and automate alerts for spending resource utilization. You can export those reports to Power BI, Excel, or in CSV format. Also, it is recommended that you schedule recurring report generation and enable cost anomaly detection in early phase. While we are discussing about Azure pricing model, how you are charged, the crucial role of Azure monitoring in your overall Azure infrastructure, we should also discuss how there are tools available which help you monitor, analyze, and enhance performance of your Azure cloud infrastructure. Those tools are Azure Monitor, Log Analytics Workspace, Azure Application Insights. Azure Monitor lets you collect widely available telemetry data for your resources under your subscriptions, and you can check that under which workload which resource has performed how. Also, you can integrate Azure Monitor with Log Analytics Workspace and can collect logs, run Kusto query language to check underperformant, underutilized, over-provisioned resources, for example. Developers can integrate Azure Application Insight SDK in their code, application code, to check for error detection, failure rates, high response time, non-performant phases of the application. We also need to remember, while Azure monitoring has crucial role to check for your deployed infrastructure in effectively manage the cost for your Azure cloud environment, we should not forget about testing. Strategic testing optimize Azure cost to great extent. You write code, you containerize your application. For all these phases, you should enable vulnerability scanning to remediate identified vulnerabilities. There are several tools available for that. Chekhov, Sneak, Privy are some of them. Not only that, Azure also lets you define load testing using Azure load testing tool. You can use Apache JMeter to upload custom test scripts in your Azure load testing tool and can define number of virtual user load testing pattern and can evaluate performance under varying workloads. You can also use Azure pricing calculator to simulate predictive cost. So let us check how. As I mentioned about Azure pricing calculator, there are also other tools available like Azure Cost Management Plus Billing, Azure Advisor. So let us see how these tools work to estimate cost and provide you with the right recommendation to optimize your resources. If you visit the official Azure pricing calculator website, you will see there you are able to select configure Azure services based on your needs. For example, you want to provision a D series VM in US region under pay as you go model or Azure cost savings model, pricing model. Then you can select the service under specific configuration details and pricing plans, and you can check what will be the cost for your to be deployed infrastructure. You can generate pricing plan based on that. Azure Cost Management is native tool available for Azure, which gives you comprehensive cost insights. You can set up budgeting for your resource usage, performance metrics. You can set up alerts for spending thresholds, or if threshold for some resource usage you set up is touched, you can generate alert. You can go by its recommendation for optimizing your resources, thus cost. It also supports generating report in several manner using several tools, using several formats, thus help in efficient billing management. Azure Advisor is a tool which is clear from its name what it does. It monitors your resource utilization and recommends you how you can optimize over-provisioned, underperformed, and underutilized resources. It gives you tailored, actionable insights based on which you can opt for right strategies for your Azure infrastructure. It can be seamlessly integrated with Azure cost management tool. Suppose Azure virtual machine you have provisioned, which was non-performant, suppose only 20% of its vCPU was used in peak time. Azure Advisor recommends you how you can optimize, right size this resource. You can also check at the same point of time as your cost management dashboard to check how much cost that VM has incurred. So you get a holistic view of overall your Azure infrastructure and cost management. While I am telling about cost efficiency, how you can introduce it in your Azure environment, nowadays, remember, we use infrastructure as code tooling heavily to provision resources in Azure. Using Terraform or Bicep or Pulumi, those are the known ISC tools, you can in much efficient manner, automated way, faster manner, you can provision resources in your cloud environment, thus in Azure. It provides you reliability and almost omits the possibility of committing human mistake because it enables automated resource provision. With single push of code, you can create, manipulate, replicate your whole virtual environment in your cloud. It gives you clear visibility who has created which environment and how and when. Also, for example, Terraform, the widely known and used ISC tool, lets you define ephemeral workspace where you can define expiry date against your temporary resources so that after a certain point of time, those resources will be deleted automatically. Or you can enable continuous validation for security breaches, data breaches, or some checking if very costly resource is going to be provisioned in non-production environment using Terraform Enterprise feature by writing check blocks. While we were discussing about Azure monitoring, we discussed about Azure Monitor tool, log analytics, workspace, etc. I should also mention about two more open source tools like Prometheus and Grafana, which enhances the power of observability in optimizing your cloud spending to great extent. Prometheus collects lots of data, telemetry data, streamline metrics collection, and gives you real-time monitoring insights for cost management. It has great impact on your Azure infrastructure performance, which you can integrate with Grafana, where you have dashboard available with advanced feature, where you can analyze that how your cost is incurred based on which resources, what you can optimize, and how you can make your application performant as well as your infrastructure having effective cost management in place. You can also use Azure Monitor as data source for Grafana. So when we discuss about all this Azure monitoring, tagging, or cost management billing, you must have thought for everything the base is robust security. If you do not have robust security in place, then your cost management will be messed up very soon. Imagine due to data breaches or security costs, you are liable to some legal issues or some financial fine. You also have some downtime due to this in production. How you can optimize this? You can optimize this using the support provided by Azure and third-party toolings by provisioning robust infrastructure with proper security. So let us see how other organizations are taking advantage of this. We all know about VMware. It enhances the capability of virtualization. VMware has large client base, so does Azure have. So VMware now wants to increase its client base size more. So it wants to pair up with Azure. So what do? They come up with Azure VMware solutions, but they do not stop there. They also come up with VMware Cloud Health to have their own personalized security tools for their own personalized actionable items so that they can enhance security and enhance usage of VMware solution. So it supports automated governance. It tells like if your resources which are used by VMware solutions likewise that if they are adhering to certain compliance standard or not, or if they are going through right tagging policies or not. It enforces consistent security policies by identifying vulnerabilities. It can work perfectly well in multi-cloud environment. So if you are using Azure with AWS Google Cloud, that is no problem. It provides you detailed insights for making informed cost decisions. While I am telling about different tools to support cost management effectively in Azure, I must mention about Apito Cloudability. It is widely known post-fact cost management tool for deployed resources in your Azure environment. Using its showback and chargeback capability, it tells very clearly which department, which subscription is using how much cloud resources, spending how much money on your cloud infrastructure, and can recommend what should be effective tagging policies in place, security should be enforced. It can help in accurate budgeting and forecasting, and thus introducing robust governance and compliance. It comes up with personalized, actionable optimization insights. While I am telling you about Apito Cloudability, I must also mention about InfraCost because this is one of the known effect cost management tool which came into market by targeting Terraform. Imagine you have written infrastructure provisioning code using Terraform, ACL, and now you want to see cost in your code editor. InfraCost makes this possible. In VS Code or IntelliJ IDEA, you can enable InfraCost extension, and for your Terraform HCL code, you can see the cost within code editors based on the usage pattern you defined. You can also see cost estimates in GitLab merge request, GitHub pull requests. Also see if tagging policies are adhered to in this phase only. You can also integrate it with Azure DevOps to check cost estimates during build and release stages. AI is nowadays buzz, and Azure rightly uses AI-driven insights for effective cost management. And how? With AI-driven insights, it helps you in automating cost analysis, creating comprehensive cost insight reports, querying cost data using natural language, improved budgeting and forecasting, check for underutilized resources for optimization, check real-time spending pattern and set up alerts accordingly. Azure Cost Management, its native tool uses certain machine learning algorithms for AI-driven insights for spending optimization and monitoring. Also, third-party tools like Spot by NetApp, which enhances usage of Spot instances for certain workloads, making your application performant, uses machine learning algorithms, AI, for checking how it can make your application most performant while using Spot instances. Turbonomic also uses AI-driven insights for resource management and making your application more performant. So it is not only Azure, the other tools which are integrating with Azure to enhance its capability in terms of security, cost management, etc. They are also taking advantages of AI for smart cost management. Here I want to state one example of one organization, how It increased its business as well as productivity. How? As per Forrester study, it has been observed that a composite organization used Azure-based Adobe SaaS solutions. What is Azure-based Adobe SaaS solution? Like Adobe is big organizations. You use several services of it. You also use Azure. Won't it be better if you have Azure-based Adobe SaaS solution so you don't need to separately integrate Adobe with Azure? It will be great. Now you want to use the solution. How it helps in your productivity? It has been checked in this Forrester study that composite-based organization reduced the endeavor from several months to 1 month. Also increased its IT and security productivity by 20%. It was able to reallocate its 15 engineers to different projects from its 40 IT team members. It gave return on investment to 51%. So, what are the key takeaways from this whole speech, whole discussion? We discussed about Azure pricing model. We came to know what is the role of Azure monitoring, tagging, compliance policies. We came to know what are the tools available. So what we now need to do, implement pricing model appropriately as per your need. Enforce compliance by using Azure policies, tagging and monitoring policies. Ensure you have robust security in place. Take help from open source third-party tools and Azure native tools. Enhance budgeting and forecasting accuracy using several features provided by Azure and third-party tools integrated with Azure. Boost your cost efficiency with advanced visibility tools like Prometheus, Grafana, etc. Thank you everyone for watching. Do not forget to leave your questions and rate this presentation. We meet you again in some other talk. Goodbye for now. Thank you.